But we now turn to an event that happened 30 years ago today, back in 1992. I was there, actually, in the court for that. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Planned Parenthood of southeastern Pennsylvania in a case against the state of Pennsylvania. It reaffirmed a woman's constitutional right to an abortion and reaffirmed the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision. This was the Pickett's charge, it seemed, of the pro-life movement. At that point, it ruled that while states cannot prohibit abortions, there can be more restrictions around them. And there was a point at which the fetus could survive outside the womb. That was viability, and that was what that case decided, that the state could not interfere before viability. That all, of course, is gone. That case changed the course of history. But let's bring in our Devin Dwyers. We also learned that Justice Stephen Breyer is formally leaving the court tomorrow on its last day. So, Devin, this opens the way for the first black woman justice to be sworn into the nation's highest court. What's there to know?
And we're at the end of the term, Terry. It's been a blockbuster, a couple more decisions still to go. But Justice Stephen Breyer announced today he will officially step down on Thursday. That's tomorrow at noon. He, of course, announced that he would retire after 28 years back in January, ending his service on the court, clearing the way for President Biden to nominate Ketanji Brown-Jackson as the first black woman ever nominated and then later confirmed to the bench. And I just learned just this minute, Terry, that the Supreme Court will swear her in immediately. That swearing in will take place right at noon as well, as soon as so a passing of the torch, if you will happen at the same time. Jackson, of course, was a former clerk to Justice Breyer. She was confirmed in April, 53-47. 3 Republicans voting in favor of her. And, of course, this won't upset the ideological balance on the court. But what a historic milestone at the end of a very historic term. Terry?
And also, Devin, you know, the overturning of Roe versus Wade, a decision that will undoubtedly trigger a wave of legal and political disputes between states and the federal government. We've been talking about that since it was overturned. Let's just talk about what sort of legal problems you foresee as we move forward.
Well, the biggest legal battles right now, Kira, are in the states. They're against the providers, abortion providers, healthcare services in the states, against the state officials now enforcing these new bans. That's sort of the tip of the spear, and we're starting to see that just today in Ohio. Officials there, as they're beginning to implement a 6-week abortion ban, being taken to court by abortion providers saying it's unconstitutional under the state Constitution. So it will be fascinating to watch that. You alluded, though, to the federal government challenge of some of these states. The Biden administration is under a lot of pressure, the Justice Department, to bring suits against these states to shore up abortion rights. I expect we could see challenges on the issue of Medicare funding. Federal funding is allowed in cases of rape and incest. A number of states banning abortion with no exceptions for rape and incest. We'll see the federal government perhaps sue to defend the ability of women to travel out of state to protect those women. And, of course, there are big skirmishes ahead on the abortion pill, whether those can be distributed by mail, because the Federal Food and Drug Administration, rather, has approved those for use, of course, nationwide.
And, Devin, we've reported, obviously, on what those states that are controlled by legislatures and governors that oppose abortion rights are doing right after this decision came down, and some which had these dormant laws, and once Roe was overturned, they came back to life to restrict abortion. But what about those states where pro-abortion rights authorities are in charge? Are we going to see states like that try to reach across state lines and do other things to strengthen and codify their attitudes?
There's certainly a lot of conversation, Terry, in a group of about 10 states where they're kind of the new swing states. If we talk about, you know, election season swing states, there's kind of a swing state cohort when it comes to abortion. Pennsylvania, just take one of those examples. Right now, it's controlled by a Democratic governor. They don't have constitutional protection, state constitutional protection for abortion. So there's talk there of enshrining it in their state constitution. That has been introduced in the legislature. Certainly 16 states plus the District of Columbia enacted protections, explicit protections for abortion rights prior to the Supreme Court's decision this week, Friday rather, but those protections will stand. But a number of these middle ground states, Ohio, Virginia, very fierce debate underway there with a much more divided state government, governors on the ballot this fall in many cases. So that's something to watch very closely going forward in that group of states.
We also know the Supreme Court will issue rulings on the EPA's authority over climate regulation and the future of Trump-era Remain in Mexico policy. That will be happening tomorrow, 10 in the morning. Both you and Terry have been up very early monitoring and waiting for these decisions to be handed down. Let's just talk about what's at stake here as we get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, two significant cases to close out this term. You know, guys, we've talked about guns, abortion, a whole number of issues, Indian rights today, so many major cases, school prayer on the 50-yard line, and tomorrow we'll get two more blockbusters. Terry knows as well, we've been talking about it. Very significant ruling in a case about the Environmental Protection Agency and its ability to regulate greenhouse gases from power plants. Very significant. A number of states have sued the federal government asking for limits on that authority. They say, the coal industry in particular, that the EPA is overstepping here. The Biden administration says if the EPA can't regulate aggressively, Kira and Terry, that it will handcuff our ability to curb climate change. So a lot on the line in that case, potentially more. And then there's a second case on immigration. This deals with the Trump administration's Remain in Mexico policy that was put in place in 2019 to instantly deport, if you will, asylum seekers flowing to the border, keep them south of the border encampments in Mexico, waiting for their hearing on their asylum claims. President Biden has tried to end that policy. Texas said not so fast. You've actually got to continue it, and the Supreme Court tomorrow will decide whether or not the president has discretion on this policy. A lot on the line for border security, of course, but also humanitarian reasons. Those families, thousands of families and migrants waiting in pretty horrible conditions in Mexican camps. Guys.
All right, Devin, thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.